Well, it is set back for the Ruyas of Essar Steel and Advantage ArcelorMittal. The Company Law Tribunal has rejected a petition by Essar Steel's promoters to withdraw the company from the insolvency process. I'm also joined by my colleague Lata Venkatesh here, and we are joined by legal experts. Nilang Desai of AZBN Partners joins us now. Nilang, a big shot in the arm as far as ArcelorMittal is concerned and a setback for the Ruyas. Of course, this matter is now going to head to the NCLT, but nevertheless, the NCLT saying that it rejects Essar's repayment proposal.
No, you're absolutely right. It's not a great start for the Ruyas. I think, as you said, this is, there is a potential that this will be appealed, and then appeal onwards from that to the Supreme Court. So we still have to see round 2 and round 3. But not a great start for the Ruyas. Having said that, keep in mind that this is only part A really of round 1, because the next thing that has to happen as yet in the NCLT is an evaluation of the Mittal plan to see if that works out in terms of the complaints or the cases filed by the operational creditors saying that they haven't got their fair deal. So we still have to wait and see how that pans out.
Yes, we are given to understand that ArcelorMittal's case will be presented by the RP tomorrow at the NCLT. But just to take up the point that you were making, because that's the Essar Steel argument to the NCLT, they claim that the overriding principle of the IBC is maximization of recovery for creditors, and hence their proposal is better. In fact, they say it's 12,000 crore rupees better than the ArcelorMittal plan. Do you believe that that argument is going to find legs?
Well, from what you're telling me in terms of what the court has said, clearly it hasn't found legs. And so far the courts have been pretty unanimous in their preference for value maximization. So this is one of those few cases where they seem to have valued process over value maximization, which is interesting.
Okay, Nilang, on the 25th January judgment of the Supreme Court upholding the IBC in toto, the Supreme Court, in various ways, I don't have the exact words with me, it did say that 29A is valid and defaulting promoters therefore ought not to be allowed. So, assuming this case goes now after the NCLT process to NCLT and Supreme Court, should we assume that the very fact that the 25th January judgment stands, the chances of Arcelor or the chances of Ruyas getting a shot at their own plant is weak?
Speaking technically, 29A and 12A are a little disconnected, because 29A really is focusing on a resolution plan. The Ruyas bidder isn't a resolution plan. It is under a different section which says actually we're taking the company out of IBC. And to that extent, Section 12A doesn't really talk about 29A. By definition, pulling it out of IBC would involve the promoter. So in that sense, these issues are disconnected. So
because of the precedent of the Benani case, you think that in the NCLT and in the Supreme Court, the Ruyas still have an even chance?
Well, let me put it this way. Does the promoter who may be disqualified under 29A have a chance to pull a company out of IBC with 12A? The answer is yes. I think the real question for the Ruyas always was timing. And I think they did get a shot in the arm when the Supreme Court ruled a month or two ago to say that the timing set out in the regulations is, just a guideline and not mandatory. But obviously the NCLT has taken a firmer view on some issue in relation to it, which may well be timing. I doubt the NCLT will say they're fundamentally disqualified. I suspect it's got something to do with timing.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about that Supreme Court saying that it is not binding, the fact that you could entertain another proposal after the EOI process is over. That's ArcelorMittal's argument that, look, process has been followed and Essar Steel has come in to the fray after due process has been followed. And this is against the principles of the law as per the IBC. So you're saying that there could be a window, a leeway here as far as the Ruyas are concerned?
Again, as I said, I haven't seen this order, so I don't know what this court has passed its judgment basis. But there was a window open, certainly, with that judgment. The facts of that case and this case were obviously different. So maybe there was a distinction made by the NCLT basis the facts. But whether or not the basis on which the NCLT has taken the decision leaves open the ability to appeal will only be determined, I think, once people read the order.
Yes, we do need to look at the order in detail. What we are given to understand is the court has agreed to hear creditors to ascertain merits of their claim, and that is likely to happen tomorrow. So this is not done just yet. But this is the latest that we're getting from the NCLT in the matter, the bitter battle that's on between ArcelorMittal and the Ruyas for Essar Steel. Nilang, always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18 with your take on what these developments mean. Also with us, Alok Dhir, Managing Partner at Dhir & Dhir. Alok, thanks very much for joining us. What do you make of the developments that have transpired at the NCLT today? The NCLT rejecting Essar Steel, the Ruya's repayment plan for Essar Steel. Alok?
Yeah, I can't hear. Hello?
Can you hear me now? I was asking you what you make of the decision of the NCLT barring the Ruyas from making that repayment proposal for Essar Steel.
Hello, I think this is a big setback for Essar and in that sense advantage Essilor. In fact, as you are aware, the Supreme Court had earlier rejected the bid of Essar, and therefore insofar as this last ditch attempt of Essar was there for paying the entire amount of 54,300 as against 45,000 which Essilor was planning to pay. Certainly from the perspective of maximization of value, it was a higher amount that they were paying, and stakeholders would have got further and substantially more money. And in particular, the operational creditor would have got the entire monies due from them, as against the Essilor bid, where the operational creditors would get a fraction of their money. So not only is it a setback to the Essar Steel, but it is also a setback for the operational creditors, who will now not get the full amount as was being promised to them by Essar Steel. However, at the same time, the court has said two things. One is that there is no illegality in the COC not accepting the bid. This application is not maintainable under Section 60, subsection 5 of the IBC. And also they have directed the resolution professional to put up the Essilor's plan. However, we are aware that there were applications which were filed by the operational creditors also challenging the Essar Steel plan. Challenging the ArcelorMittal plan. Now the issue, when the RP puts the ArcelorMittal plan before the NCLT Ahmedabad, the question and the challenge which is made by the operational creditors will have to be looked at. Essar Steel in all probability will challenge this before the NCLT.
Alok, if I could ask you, Alok, to your point on the operational creditors, I think the recent Supreme Court judgment has made it absolutely clear that the waterfall mechanism stands and operational creditors are below the financial creditors for a reason, and that remains. I don't see how that would be challenged. But how do you think the brilliant alloys case would apply in this case, where the company was allowed to pull out of bankruptcy months after, in fact, the final commercial process had begun? Do you think that is something that could be used in the Essar Steel case?
See, there has been, of course, in the Essar Steel case 12A, the 7C's judgment, which has the Swiss Ribbons judgment, which has recently come from NCLT, from the Supreme Court, is also something which may support them, because they are saying 12A can be invoked at any stage of proceedings. And if the entire monies are being paid to all the parties concerned, perhaps at some point of time, some court, whether it is the NCLT or the Supreme Court, will look positively at what Essar Steel is proposing. In any case, at this point of time, the NCLT has rejected this proposition which has been made by the Essar Steel, and therefore Essar Steel will have to wait, and we'll have to all see how the law develops and how this matter will be disposed of by NCLT and by the Supreme Court. Okay. But as of now, it is set back to Essar.
Okay, Alok, assuming that the case is decided in favor of Arcelor, because as Ritu was just pointing out, the financial creditors have been placed higher than operational creditors. Assuming NCLT takes that part of the Supreme Court's January 25th judgment and decides in favor of Arcelor, and Arcelor pays up the money, then do you think courts will be loath to postpone the case if the payment is made very quickly by ArcelorMittal?
I think the key issue here is that if we go by the Seven Ribbons judgment and they are placing the financial creditors over the operational creditors in the distribution, but here the bid which was being made by SLR is, by Essar Steel is that they were willing to pay the entire dues of the operational creditors as well. So that was not prejudicing the financial creditors. On the other hand, the operational creditors would have got back all their money.
No, I agree. But for what it is worth, the NCLT has not entertained the...
They have not entertained.
So assuming that tomorrow the RP places the Arcelor case and the case gets decided in favor of Arcelor and the payment is made, usually when payment is made, courts don't interfere, right?
Yes, I would imagine that if payments are made, there is always a possibility that the upper hand will be with SLR Mittal. But in my view, it's a matter which will be instantly and immediately challenged, and some interim orders will be sought from NCLT. So I think we should watch the court, watch the NCLT over the next couple of days. Something is bound to happen.
But Alok, considering that the NCLT was quite firm that the NCLT has to decide quickly, do you think that in a way makes the NCLT also kind of side with the way in which the NCLT has decided?
I don't think so. No. I don't think NCLT had given any view or opinion. They merely wanted the expedition of the matter because it has been pending for a long time. I don't know. I mean, it's ultimately no appellate court will give its mind so easily without going through the entire merits of the matter. The focus was only on getting a decision out of NCLT Ahmedabad on this critical issue. And now the matters will shift to NCLT very, very quickly. Even if the resolution plan is put up by the RP, in view of the challenge to the resolution plan by the operational creditors, who in fact tend to lose a lot of money if the SLR plan is accepted and would have gained substantially if the Essar Steel proposal was accepted by the creditors, there is going to be a serious challenge. It may take some more time before the NCLT Ahmedabad can decide on approval of the SLR plan. In the meanwhile, clearly Essar Steel will be filing the appeal in the NCLT in the next couple of days. I don't think they're going to waste any time in moving to the higher forum.
Yes, so we are given to understand that is exactly what they intend doing. It has already been exciting times as far as this bitter battle is concerned. But Alok, once again, what do you believe are the leeways that the Ruyas can use as leverage in order to further their cause and their case, given what the Supreme Court has previously said on the process issue specifically, forget 29A, but on the process issue and the fact that the Supreme Court is basically saying what it stated earlier was not binding, it was only a sort of guideline that could have been abided by. So what could be those windows of opportunity that the Ruyas could focus on?
Yeah. I would say that at this point of time, the Ruyas have their back against the wall. There seems to no two ways about it. However, maximization of value and resolution is an important issue that is being looked at, and the law is developing. Every time the matter goes to NCLT, LAT, and the Supreme Court, we all, with bated breath, try to understand what is the view that is being taken. In this case, a very critical issue will be up for consideration before the appellate forum and the Supreme Court, and that is that you have a plan where all stakeholders are getting every bit of their money without a sacrifice, as against another plan which in fact would be offering much lesser value and money to the stakeholders. However, the question is the process bigger or is the interest of the stakeholders paramount? That decision will have to be taken. Somebody will have to sit down and evaluate, is the process a handmaiden of the enactment? And if the enactment says that the benefit and the value maximization is an important aspect, will that aspect be given a go-by merely because the process, which is the handmaiden of the enactment, is not being followed? And the question also is that now under 12A, in the Swiss the Supreme Court has said it can happen at any stage. The question is, even at a late stage where the bids have come and a proposal is coming from the promoter in that sense, and he wants the matter to be withdrawn under 12A, merely because the process has run a substantial course, will you deny the operational creditors the money that they are entitled to get? Or somebody is offering to give. So
Alok,
it's a question that will have to be decided by the Supreme Court. I'm not taking sides. I'm merely putting the preposition before you.
Alok, I think that has already been decided by the Supreme Court. Financial creditors and operational creditors cannot get parity. I think that debate has ended with the Supreme Court judgment.
No, I don't think so. That debate is only to the extent that they will not get priority. Here the question is that the operational creditors are being offered full money.
Okay.
Should we deny them? It is not that they are taking away anything from the financial creditors. They are not getting any priority over financial creditors. Their financial creditors will get full value, and then the operational creditors will also get full value.
Alok, if you were in the court today or if you heard the judgment, could you give us more details on whether or not there are any conditions attached to this order? Because we're yet to see the written copy.
No, I'm afraid I'm sitting in Delhi watching this with bated breath, but unfortunately there's nothing more to say.
But what were the grounds on which the NCLT rejected? I mean, if what you say is true, that somebody is willing to pay the operational creditors and the financial creditors, then the NCLT should have seen the justice of the case. They haven't.
See, I have not seen the judgment. I'm of the view that this is something which is interpretation of law. Clearly, there has been a judgment that has gone against the Essar Steel in the Supreme Court at the stage when their bid was rejected. That may have influenced the NCLT Ahmedabad while passing this order. But this crucial issue of them offering 54,389 crore odds as against 45,000 crores, the difference between the two is that they are now wanting to pay everybody the entire money that is due. That's why there is a difference between the two.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Alok Dhir, for joining us. Clearly, one thing is very clear. The Essar group will take the case very quickly to the NCLT. So we may not have much time. But I think another interesting angle would be whether SBI would persist with the sale of the loan itself. I mean, the sale of the loan, and if it is sold off, will queer the pitch somewhat because it will be a different committee of creditors depending on who buys the loan. So there are wheels within wheels here.
Absolutely. And for now, but State Bank of India has deferred the sale up till the 11th of February. So it wants to see what comes out of the NCLT order before it takes that call. And whatever SBI chooses to do and the kind of interest that sale generates is what the other bankers are waiting and, watching out for. If that goes well, perhaps there might be others that join the queue.
Okay, well...
well, that's right, Ritu and Lata. In fact, I have to say that ArcelorMittal feels extremely confident that not only will this go in their favor, they also believe that this matter will be concluded before March. That was the unequivocal view there from Aditya Mittal, who I caught up with in Davos just a few days ago. And he'd expressed confidence that the Essar Steel matter would be resolved in their favor. And they were disappointed with the fact that the Ruyas were, in their words, trying to frustrate the IBC process. Listen in.
Let me ask you about whether you were surprised about State Bank of India's decision to put that 15,500 crores of the Essar Steel exposure on the block. Of course, the deadline for that has now been extended. How do you see that playing out and what the implications could be on the IBC process?
I think that's another demonstration why the process needs to come to a logical conclusion and a speedy conclusion, right? The state banks are losing 17 crores a day, okay? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for India. They can utilize those funds, redeploy it to enhance liquidity in the country, redeploy it, give loans, and boost growth. Yet instead, because of all of these actions and delay tactics, they're requesting bids at an 18% discount to our offer, right? 18% discount. That's a lot of money that's being put on the table. And that's why it's very important that the core processes and the rule-based IBC is implemented, because otherwise, in the big picture, the country is losing a lot of value.
You know, you talked about value maximization, and I go back to the statement that came in from Essar Steel saying that their offer is in line with the objective of the IBC to enhance value maximization, not just for lenders but also for operational creditors, and their offer is better than the resolution plan that was cleared, 12,000 crore rupees better. How do you respond to that?
So that's very interesting because when you read the media reports, the first offer that they made was 20,000 crores, right? So if it wasn't for
now in excess of 54,000.
No, but if you go back to day one, it was 20,000 crores, right?
But now I'm talking about now the revised offer.
So let's talk about the revised offer. You have to follow a rule-based process, and that's what my answer was going to be. Because if you do not follow a rule-based process, companies like us and others will not participate if there's a promoter bidding for a company. Then what you would have seen is that Essar Steel would have been sold to Nu Metal/Ruiyas for 20,000 crores. That would have been a massive loss. And then future bad loans, future companies which are not able to service the debt, the promoters would come back and buy it back at a discount, because the Essar Steel would demonstrate that you don't have to follow the rules. So it's not just about our case.
So you believe that this is a subversion of the IBC?
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because the IBC process was very clear. The courts were very clear. There were chances to submit bids. I mean, we all know this is not a process we started yesterday, right? It's almost 2 years. And so now suddenly the COC has decided, they've chose the winning bid to come in at the last moment. I mean, I don't even think the bid is financed. There's no guarantees. There's no penalties, because in the IBC process, you provide guarantees. If you forfeit your bid, you know, all of those things are there. So it's an unfortunate development, and clearly the courts will take the right decision. I have a lot of faith in the rule-based economy as India, and that should be the logical conclusion.
You know, that's the point of view of Essar, but that point of view has also been bolstered by somebody like Sajjan Jindal, also perhaps an interested party in some senses, or at least was in the previous avatar of the bid with Nu Metal. What do you make of Sajjan Jindal saying that, look, the Essar family should get the right to go through with this if they can finance it?
Look, I think all promoters have the right to buy back their companies by paying back 100 cents on the dollar, but not 540 days later, right? They should, first of all, not allow the company to go under, right? That's the first requirement. And if the company has gone under, try and find a solution as soon as you can. First submit a bid of 20,000 and then, you know, mess around with the process, I don't think is a promoter trying to act in the best interest of creditors.
Is there a possibility at all, and we saw this play out as far as Arcelor is concerned, that there was a last-minute sweetening of the offer? Is that a possibility that you would consider, given the fact that Essar continues to bring up the fact that there is a 12,000 crore rupee difference between what they're offering and your offer?
Look, I think we've gone through 540 days. I think what the banks are really focused on is coming to the right conclusion.
But is this even a possibility, a revised offer on your part?
There's no need, right? The COC has taken a decision. We're in the courts to approve the resolution plan. So at this point in time, I think our bid, if you just looked at the scoring when the bids were open, was far in excess of anything on the table. And today the banks are willing to sell at a discount to our bid. So I think the discussion is not about the bid. The discussion is really about
the
process, making sure that the employees of Essar Steel have a clear future, making sure that we can make the investments, improve the business, grow the business, and bring in our capabilities to India.
Well, that was Aditya Mittal speaking with me a short while ago, and feeling extremely confident that the Essar Steel bid would be decided in their favor. In fact, Essar has put out a statement, and it says, we continue to believe that our offer of 54,389 crores is the most compelling proposal available to Essar Steel creditors. It seeks to repay all classes of creditors and fulfills the IBC's overriding objective of value maximization, and that has been established time and again by courts at all levels. We are awaiting a copy of the full NCLT order, and will take a call on next steps after we have thoroughly gone through the order. But once again, Essar Steel, the Ruiyas, making it clear that their offer is better because they intend to repay operational creditors to the full as well. But here's the lawyer of ArcelorMittal reacting to the NCLT order, shot in the arm for them.
See, the judgment is the Essar shareholders had moved an application seeking a permission that they must be allowed to settle this matter. Now, the NCLT has held that only way to settle the matter is through an application under 12A, which is under the court, and that is the only way it can happen. This is not an application under 12A. Supreme Court has also upheld the validity of 12A, so therefore no other way of redemption, everything is permissible, and therefore this application is not maintainable, and therefore this application is dismissed on that counts.
Sir, now what are the chances Essar have to survive or to appeal?
As of now, this is a judicial order. They do have a right to appeal, which they want. If they can challenge it before NCLT. That's a statutory right they have. Otherwise, this application...
It will be difficult to make any guess about that.
It's a right. If they want to exercise, they can.
Arcelor का क्या plan रहेगा? आप अपने
See, it is not Arcelor. It was an application by the Essar shareholders. The COC went ahead and lodged an objection. So that objection has been upheld. So that's it.
What will the court hear tomorrow?
Court will proceed with the resolution plan approval application, which has been filed by the resolution professional. So that application will now proceed. So that hearing has to be there. So that's it.
Well, that's the lawyer for ArcelorMittal saying that the NCLT has basically held that the application made by Essar Steel by Prashant Ruiya is not maintainable. It's been dismissed. But of course, the statutory right of the Ruiyas is to appeal before the NCLT. And what we are given to understand is that they may in fact do that as early as tomorrow. Remember, time is of the essence. But we will continue our coverage here. We'll take a quick break and be back with a lot more news. Don't go anywhere.